Les decía en el bloque pasado de este programa que íbamos a estar conversando con el CEO, con el creador de esta red social Gettr. Gettr quiere decir Getting Together, reunámonos en español, ¿no? Y es una plataforma que cuando fue creada anunció como misión, como declaración de su misión, luchar contra la cultura de la cancelación, promover el sentido común, defender la libertad de expresión, desafiar los monopolios de las redes sociales y crear un verdadero mercado de ideas. Su CEO es Jason Miller, él fue el creador de esta red social y esta entrevista la vamos a hacer en inglés y en español, como somos todos los hispanos aquí en los Estados Unidos. Hablamos inglés, hablamos español, para que aquellos pues que no dominan bien el inglés puedan tener acceso a la información que vamos a tener ahora mientras conversamos con Jason Miller. Es un placer tenerte en el programa, Jason. Welcome, Jason Miller. I'm so happy to have you in Americano. Muy felices de tenerte en Americano.
Lourdes, thank you so much for having me, and I'm very impressed with what Americano has put together so far. Your show is really taking the world by storm, and it's very impressive to see for such a new media outlet.
Gracias, thank you. Dice Jason que él está muy impresionado con lo que estamos logrando en Americano y lo que es el objetivo, ¿no? Estaba de esta cadena. Recordemos, amigos oyentes, que Americano es la primera cadena en español nacional conservadora. Jason, let me ask you a question. Déjame hacerte una pregunta. ¿Qué te hizo a ti meterte en esta locura de las redes sociales? Why you got involved on this social media frenzy creating Gettr?
In 2020, I had a front row seat working for President Trump, seeing the dangers of cancel culture and also seeing what happens when political discrimination begins to impact our elections and our everyday way of life. And I knew after the 2020 election that we had to take action and we had to have a platform for free speech that could not be canceled.
Sí, él nos cuenta que después de que participó con el presidente Trump durante su campaña y todo lo que fueron las elecciones del 2020, él observó de cerca lo que es la cultura de la cancelación y vio todas las víctimas, ¿no? de estas operaciones de los medios y de las redes sociales, que él dijo, en definitiva, yo tengo que poder crear algo para encarar esta situación, básicamente cultura de cancelación y noticias falsas. No. Now, let me tell you something, Jason. Déjame decirte algo. Most Hispanics has been canceled for not following the liberal agenda, where we are all like sort of categorized in the same way. Listen, Jason, with nicknames such as Latinx, which, by the way, are very disrespectful, you know? So let me ask you, what do you offer to this Hispanic audience from Americano, for example, that they say, okay, this is different, I'm going to join Gettr because I should join them? Why they should join them, Jason? Le pregunto, que a todos nos han calificado de Latinx, esos terminologías irrespetuosas que nos ha puesto a todos los hispanos, que nos han metido en el mismo bote. Entonces, ¿por qué los hispanos nos tenemos que acompañar a Gettr en esta red social? Jason.
So I asked a friend of mine what Latinx was, except that I pronounced it I pronounced it Latinx because I didn't know. And so I said, what is this Latinx? And this friend of mine looked at me and said, if you ever say Latinx or Latinx in front of me again, I'm going to slap you. He said, nobody in my community actually goes by Latinx or Latinx.
Of course not. Yes, that's ridiculous, you know, and as I was telling you, they put us all like in the same boat. You are all Hispanics, then you are Latinx. That's not true.
So exactly. So here's what we have found with Gettr, where we have had remarkable success and where we've had buy-in from communities all over the world, is particularly with communities who have faced authoritarian regimes and in particular communism. Mm-hmm. And so we have such a great support level, for example, in southern Florida because of both the Cuban Americans who've either faced directly the horrors of communism or their families are still trapped on Cuba and dealing with it, or for example with Colombia and Brazil, where the proximity to Venezuela and the communism there. So what we offer to people is a cancel-free environment, a safe space, to steal the words from the left and use it back to them, where you can discuss free speech your political opinions, and nobody will ever cancel you or shadow ban you or label you or put you in a corner simply for your political beliefs. It is a place where we have seen such great enthusiasm, in particular from people who have fled Cuba, people who have fled Venezuela, who want that freedom, and who say big tech, the Silicon Valley oligarchs, don't speak for me. They're pushing their crazy agenda. I want to be able to say what I want and what I feel.
Exactamente, Jason. Y what he's telling, lo que nos está diciendo es que él ha tenido, la red social Gettr ha tenido un tremendo apoyo en el sur de la Florida de las comunidades cubanoamericanas, venezolanas, colombianas, que han sufrido directamente el comunismo, y él lo que ofrece es un canal de libertad para poder opinar sin que te cancelen por tu opinión política, por tu visión o por tu condena al comunismo. Y él dice que justamente en estas comunidades es donde más ha tenido apoyo, porque son precisamente las víctimas, ¿no?, de la cultura de la cancelación a través de sus países, como Cuba, Venezuela y Colombia. Y por supuesto hay otros también países que se han sumado a esta iniciativa de esta red social. Now, Jason, now that you mentioned Venezuelans and Cuban Americans and Colombians, is this platform created only for the USA, or do you intend to internationalize it? Because I saw you in France, and I saw what you are doing in Spanish in Brazil. So, what are the intentions with this platform?
Great question. So when we launched Gettr in July of 2021, just last year, at which point we were the fastest ever platform to reach 1 million, 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, now 5 million users around the world, I set two goals. One is to make sure that the technology was just as good, if not better, than anything big tech could come up with, because the user experience is so important. But second, and this was literally a day one objective of mine, was to make sure this was not some American echo chamber, that this truly was a global platform that reached people of all countries and languages. And I'm proud to say right now that of our 5 million users, half are in the United States and half are international around the world. In fact, Brazil, and obviously it's Portuguese, and so my Portuguese is a little bit rusty. Brazil is about 17% of our user base, which is very big. And so we're continuing to grow and increase our efforts, and in particular, as we think through with Hispanic and Latin Americans, Central Americans, even further into South America, as we talk about expanding our efforts with Colombia, Argentina, and other countries. So this is truly a global platform.
Fíjese, yo le preguntaba si al CEO de Gettr, estamos conversando con Jason Miller, si esta plataforma había sido creada solamente para los Estados Unidos o que si él tenía la intención de internacionalizarla, y nos cuenta que en primer lugar, esta es una plataforma que él creó con la mejor tecnología, con tecnología de punta, precisamente para poder expandirse y hacerlo una plataforma global. De hecho, nos cuenta Jason Miller, la mitad de los seguidores de Gettr están en los Estados Unidos y la otra mitad están en el exterior, y particularmente en Latinoamérica, pero fundamentalmente un importante porcentaje están en Brasil, pese a que es en portugués. La plataforma, sí, desde el primer día él la vio como una plataforma globalizada, no solamente para los Estados Unidos. Jason, I heard here in Americano that we have a collaboration between Gettr and Americano Media, and I wonder what is the extension of this collaboration, and what is important to create this sort of, let's call it joint venture?
Yes, absolutely. And so with Americano and Gettr, what we're doing is we are... Oh, hello?
Yes, I'm listening. I'm here.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Okay. Sorry, I heard another voice come in. Sorry about that. So what we are doing with Gettr is we are amplifying and promoting Americano content on the platform. And so as we specifically look as our trending news, when there are key articles and broadcasts that Americano has, we're pushing that out to people. And we're now introducing country-specific emails and language-specific push notifications to let people know when key Americano broadcasts are happening, to make sure that we introduce our user base to the great work that you're doing there with Americano. And then likewise, then on the return, we're doing our best to talk about free speech and promote the fact that there's a Gettr app, a place where you will not be canceled with the Americano broadcast. And so I think we both have a very similar goal, which is to spread freedom, to make sure that there is a cancel-free environment, and also to make sure that we are elevating people, whether they're Hispanic Americans, Latino Americans, or people who even live outside of the United States, to a social media platform that is not controlled by the big tech oligarchs in California.
Bueno, básicamente lo que nos cuenta él a la pregunta de esta asociación que se creó, una colaboración, es la palabra correcta, entre Gettr y nuestra empresa Americano Media, es cuál es la importancia de esa colaboración. Y básicamente Jason nos está contando de que estamos montados en la misma plataforma de la libertad de expresión, ¿verdad? De poder juntos llegar a estos millones de personas que están ansiosos por recibir información verdadera, pero además que no sean cancelados, que puedan ser respetados en sus opiniones. Y la importancia de esta colaboración radica allí, en que ambos medios están, diríamos, más o menos en la misma página, ¿no? Y dirigidos al mismo público. Nosotros en Americano, queridos amigos oyentes, llegamos a más de 500 millones de hispanos en Latinoamérica. Tenemos programas que incluso se realizan desde algunos países de América Latina. Jason, here in Americano, we have shows made exactly, broadcasting direct from some Latin American countries, and we reach like 500 million people. So it's a lot of people, Jason.
Wow. That's a lot.
That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. But sometimes when we see these numbers, we say, yes, 500 million people. But when we work together, we can face, let's call it, the enemies of freedom and freedom of speech. They are growing also. Le estoy diciendo a Jason que nosotros en Americano llegamos a unos 500 millones de personas entre América Latina y el mundo, y nosotros estamos diciendo que los enemigos, por citarlos de alguna manera, también tienen mucho poder y crecen muy rápido. How can we face, this situation because they are powerful, Jason. They have a lot of money, the owner of as you were calling, the oligarchs and the big media, high-tech oligarchs. How can we fight them? ¿Cómo los podemos pelear? ¿Cómo podemos lograrlo? Uh-huh.
Yeah, and you make a very good point, because this is a tough battle, and we are facing not only the big tech oligarchs, we're facing the mainstream media, we're facing academia, the universities and the professors, we're facing in many places authoritarian governments who do not want to have any sort of dissension or anyone who disagrees with them, and we're also facing a very woke pop culture. When you talk about Hollywood, when you talk about any of the entertainment world, and what they're trying to force on us is an ideology of conformity where everyone goes along. And so it's people who ostensibly say that they're left of center, that they want to have freedom and treat everyone equally, but what they're doing is they're trying to force other people and their views onto us to overstep our beliefs on religion, our beliefs on family, our beliefs on freedom. And if we don't stand up, if we don't fight back, if we don't develop channels such as Americano or platforms such as Gettr, we will take a backslide and become Cuba or Venezuela, or even as we saw up north, Canada, which began seizing bank accounts with what is supposedly a progressive regime becoming increasingly authoritarian. So we must fight for our freedom in a much different way than maybe our ancestors have fought, but we must fight nonetheless.
Sí, le preguntaba a él que cómo hacemos para encarar a estos high-tech oligarcas de las grandes tecnologías que él nos mencionaba, a estos grandes medios que tienen mucho poder y mucho dinero, cómo podemos pelear para que no se nos sea impuesta esa ideología. Y él contaba pues precisamente que esto era muy importante, dar esa pelea, porque ellos nos quieren obligar a entrar, digamos, por el camino ideológico que ellos llevan. Ellos nos quieren cancelar a través de esta nueva cultura popular de woke. Nos quieren obligar a tener un pensamiento único, tipo socialista, donde todos pensemos de la misma manera y donde en definitiva no podamos tener y desarrollar nuestras propias ideas. Y por eso tenemos que pelear juntos con plataformas como Americano Media o como Gettr, para poder dar esa pelea que al fin y al cabo es la de la libertad ideológica, la de los valores conservadores, la de mantener a la familia y la de lo que es la libertad en general. Finally, what is next, Jason? And I don't want to abuse your time. No quiero abusar de tu tiempo. Pero what is next now for Gettr and Americano?
Yes, and before I say that, I do want to add one additional point. I think that where the wokesters on the left and the Democrats, even in the United States, made a serious mistake was in 2020 with their embrace of the BLM movement and the embrace of the lawlessness and the radicalization that we saw in the summer of 2020. And I think Democrats in the media look at those who have emigrated to the United States, and they think that it's simply for economic reasons only. And I think what they fail to realize is that in many Central and South American countries, security and the protection of family is just as important as the economic opportunities. Mm-hmm. And when people see this lawlessness, then they realize, wait, this is not the direction for me. We want to make sure that people are safe and secure. As far as where we go next, I will actually be in India next week, and so the road show continues. Colombia, India, and Japan are our three expansion countries for this quarter, and so we're continuing to work and grow with them. And here's the big one: Gettr is going to be co-sponsoring and co-hosting a series of Colombian presidential interviews and Colombian presidential debates coming up in April. We are very excited. We just did this in France last week to a big success.
Yes.
And now to be able to live stream and broadcast Colombian presidential interviews and debates on Gettr, taking them around the world, is very exciting.
Sí, él nos está contando pues de lo importante que es esta plataforma para los hispanoamericanos, no solamente porque los hispanos vienen hacia los Estados Unidos por un tema económico, sino también de seguridad, ¿no? Y está contándonos lo que es la expansión de Gettr, y que lo próximo es que va para India, va a estar en Japón, y van a estar participando y transmitiendo también el tema de la campaña electoral en Colombia, como lo han estado haciendo en Francia, y como ellos pues están internacionalizando y van creciendo hacia esos países, buscando estos nuevos mercados. Nosotros en Americano, por supuesto, estamos en Los Ángeles, estamos en Texas, estamos en Washington, en Central Florida, estamos en Israel, en Portugal, en Perú, en El Salvador también, por supuesto en Colombia, en la Argentina, República Dominicana. Amigos oyentes, estos Americano Media, tenemos esta colaboración con la gente de Gettr, Jason Miller con nosotros a esta hora. Jason, I'm telling the audience about what you were telling us and how we in Americano also have presence in countries as far as Argentina, Peru, El Salvador, Costa Rica, República Dominicana, Spain, and of course domestic in Texas, Washington, Central Florida, Los Angeles, Israel. So I believe that we are on the same page with the internationalization of this message, right? That promote freedom of speech and face the cancel culture is what moves us, ¿no? Yo creo que estamos ambos en la misma página de que el mensaje es la libertad de expresión, la libertad y en definitiva encarar esta cultura de la cancelación, Jason.
Well, thank you very much. I do think that Americano and Gettr are going to continue to grow and thrive. And I think that big tech is never going to stop. And so we must defend our freedoms and support those people who are protecting our freedoms as well.
Gracias por haberme acompañado y estamos seguros de que esta colaboración va a continuar, va a crecer y que estamos pues haciendo lo correcto en esta materia de la defensa de las libertades. Thank you so much, Jason. Qué bueno. It was so nice to have you in the show. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Bueno, 11:32 de la tarde era Jason Miller, el CEO de la red social Gettr. Tenemos una colaboración en Americano Media con ellos. Ya ustedes están viendo, pues, queridos oyentes, la importancia de estas plataformas, el alcance de estas plataformas. En el caso de Americano, pues nosotros vamos a seguir avanzando en esta colaboración, llegando cada día más a más y más millones y millones de personas en el mundo. Americano Media tiene un crecimiento exponencial y con estos valores conservadores de los que estábamos conversando con el CEO de esta red social, que es en este momento la de mayor crecimiento en el mundo y ampliándose también de manera internacional.